Hello everyone, I just wanted to quickly go over the winch rod setup. That's easy for me to say, winch rod. Basically it's just an old butt section of rod, whatever you've sort of really got lying around will do the job for you. You can buy winch rod setups available. The difference being is that if you bought a dedicated winch rod, it wouldn't have this sort of top 10 inches of rod showing. It would be a cut-off version, so then you wouldn't have the opportunity to tangle around when casting around the top. That's something you need to be careful of if you are going to use an old butt section of rod, is to just be careful you don't get tangles around there. So basically what this is just, it's got an 80-pound braid on here, up to some 6mm, 2mm bore tubing. Again, very stiff to try and minimise the tangles, with a large polyball floatant on the end. That's got a buffer bead on the end of that, which you plug it into the end of the tubing. And in the end of that, you want to be plugging a snap link swivel onto there. So when you pull that all together, you have your snap link swivel pulled into the rubber bead, into your buffer bead, onto the end of your tubing. Let's get that back on there. It pulls in like that. The reason we have a snap link swivel on the end is you want to be then attaching that when you're going to be winching your baits out to either a swivel on your sort of tipper rig or dumbbell rig, or to the eye of the hook. If you're fishing with big sort of 2.0, 4.0 hooks, you can get that through the eye of the hook. Be careful not to damage in the knot, of course. And the idea of sort of winching baits out is if you're fishing at sort of any distance really, 30, 40 yards, even up to sort of 60 to 80 yards, is if you imagine trying to cast a live bait out that far, he's probably travelling through the air at 50, 80 mile an hour. So, and if that doesn't kill him, the impact of hitting the surface will either kill or stun your fish. So it won't be, the idea is we're going to fish these live baits as live as they can be when they're out there, to give you the best opportunity of getting a bite. So would just like to reiterate that when you're winching baits out, don't rush it. Just make sure that you're, if you're not got someone with you to help you, you can use a bank stick, or if it's an old butt section of a rod, you can even sort of makeshift that to have a spike on the end perhaps, and get it into the ground. It's important that it's solid, so then when you do cast out, if you do end up getting a tangle, the winch rod's not going to end up halfway across the lake. And it's probably easier to explain in action, and I think you'll see Ted and I and Kelly and I using the winch method, but to try to explain it without actually doing it, when you're winching, you want to try and keep the winch rod and your main fishing rod as far away from each other as possible. So if you're casting with a friend, the person you fishing the casting rod or your fishing rod wants to keep the main line under the surface at an angle away from your braiding main line to minimise tangles. And again, don't rush winching the baits back, because it's important to not move the lead out of position. If you cast into a feature and you make a good cast within inches of the bank or of the snag, and you winch it back really fast, when you come to winch your bait out, again, don't rush it, because you can end up feet away from where you originally thought you were going to be fishing. So I hope that's explained a few things, and try to sort of get rid of any demons of thinking that it's actually a complicated setup, or sort of a bit of a demon rig really, in terms of trying to intimidate people with tangles. But it's actually, when fished correctly, a really effective way of getting your baits out alive to give you the best possible chance of a bite.